Welcome everybody to the Quad, and today's episode is special for so many reasons. First of all, we're in our new studio, ladies. We waited patiently to be in our wonderful new studio, and here we are, we're all very excited. We decided to do a very special episode today. It's the Scumbags of the Year episode because there have been so many, and we just thought we'd dedicate a whole show on it because they deserve it, because we deserve the therapy, and essentially because we just thought it would be a fun New Year's Day activity. And the third reason why it's a special day is because we have a new guest co-host, my good friend Barbara Heller, we're going to call you Barbie from now on, who is an actress, voiceover, has her own one-woman show. She's traveled around the world, and she's just really our brand of crazy, and that's why she's here. Welcome, Barbie.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be home. You know?
I'm glad you call it home.
Oh yeah, I went to yeshiva here for a couple of years, but coming back many years later, it's so good. I don't have that feeling of like, I have to put my star away, being around the world with my show, and having anti-Semitism of all kinds. Well, you're Jewish, but you're not a Zionist, are you? Like, it's just so nice to, like, I'm a proud Zionist, yes!
Well, we're very happy that you're having such a great time.
Very loud.
That's exactly our show. All right, ladies, and of course, my regular co-host, Emily Schrader, who is a journalist and human rights activist, has been very busy with the whole Iran thing recently, and Shoshana Keats-Jaskell, who's really fighting the fight for orthodox feminists and raising voices of women in all sorts of spheres, but especially in the Orthodox community. This is my gang, and I'm so proud of all of them. Okay, let's get going, ladies. It's a very...
No time to waste.
No
a lot
time.
of scumbags to cover today.
A lot of scumbags, and also essentially, this is the first time that we've incorporated the audience into our content.
Do you care about you?
And we really do, and we really had such a good time looking at your emails, reading your emails, and seeing what you actually think, and also seeing that we really have a loyal fan base that watches this show.
It's awesome. I'm from all around the world, all ages, all demographics. It was so fun to read these emails.
It was
just
amazing.
put smiles on my faces every day. So
Especially because they say things we can't say about scumbags. Thank you for those. They're very therapeutic to read, even if we can't read them on air.
Yes, and we'll try and be as loyal as we can to the written word.
Yes. Yeah.
But we will have to censor some of it in some occasions. But let's get straight to it. Okay, top 10 scumbag ladies.
Guys.
Are you ready? There's going to be some type of theme song. Before us. Yes. Okay.
You're kicking us off, right?
Number 10. Yes, I am, Emily. Number 10. Somebody who shares their name with me. Mehdi Hassan. Yes, even spells his name like me. Mehdi Hassan is a so-called journalist. Emily, what do you call it? Loose one.
We'll get to media in a few.
Yes, we're saving your pearls for that, Emily. Mehdi Hassan is basically a shill of Qatar through his job in Al Jazeera. But he is, you know what? I want to read a fan contribution to the Mehdi Hassan because I think it's actually priceless. And it comes from somebody called Jason Childs. And he writes, Shoshana, Flo, Emily, I love your work and follow you both, three of you, on X. Okay, right, let's get to this. Such a stacked field, surely the finest scumbag Olympics ever. I love how he's getting into the spirit of the show. I'm giving it to Mehdi Hassan, a British man of Pakistani origin, Arab-splaining to the Arabs about the Middle East, and generally being an insufferable, I'm going to say schmuck, but his word started with a D and ended with a K. Keep up the amazing work, you lionesses of Judah. Yours, Gidon. Oh, I think that must be his Hebrew name. Okay, well, let's talk about...
But the funniest part is the subject of his email.
What was the subject?
Big old scummy scumbags.
Oh. This man has a sense of humor.
And I love how schnack is okay, but the other one, the DI.
Right, in Yiddish, almost everything is okay in Yiddish. Have you noticed that?
Oh, is it bad?
Almost everything is okay in Yiddish.
Yeah.
Or like cursing, it's Yiddish.
How can swell it?
Yiddish, even though it means the same thing.
Saying it, yeah.
And also, I think that most people don't actually know what schmuck means. But now maybe you do. Now you do. Mehdi was on the Monk debates where he lied and half quoted, and that's really what he does. He's very talented. Very talented.
The half-truth.
The half truth. He's very talented, very manipulative.
Yeah.
I mean, our friend Natasha Halsov called him out on a quote that was essentially taken out of context, a lie, and he just half quoted it to make it sound like it was supporting his perspective that even Balfour wasn't a Zionist, something ridiculous. But also Douglas Murray really had his number. Watch this.
Douglas.
I should say, since Mehdi was honest, I'll say what I think. I think he's a very dishonest actor. A very dishonest actor. And to say what you just said about hostages would come a lot better if a contributor to Al Jazeera had not been discovered last week holding a hostage in his home. And if Mehdi cares about the Palestinian casualties, as I'm sure he does, then tell your bosses in Qatar to tell their friends in Gaza to stop the war and give back the hostages.
Ladies, what do you think about
I can't stand that. I can't stand that guy. First of all, he's blocked me almost everywhere.
He blocked me too, which is ironic because his book is How to Win Arguments, but he blocks everyone.
He didn't block me and he argues with me. I think he might think I'm his cousin.
You are. I know he's not there.
No, and I'm a white colonial. Okay.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes. Okay, so Mehdi.
He's a worthy scumbag. I can't with that guy. He's just so annoying and smarmy and ugh.
He's smart, he's Oxbridge, and he really thinks that he knows better. Like this guy said, Arab-splaining.
Yeah.
I think that's a good description of him. He's been so disingenuous since the beginning of this war, again, lying, half-quoting, and ultimately working for Qatar, which is the machine of poison that there is all around the world, and he still pretends to be a journalist with any type of integrity. You're not, and you are not even important enough to be a higher number than 10. So you, Mehdi Hassan, you just made it in, so feel proud. Number 10, Scumbag of the Year. Oh. All right, ladies. Number 9. Who is number 9?
We have the Jewish anti-Israel activists.
The self-loathing Jews?
The self-loathing Jews.
Yes, the capos of our generation, but they're worse than capos because at least they were trying to survive. And these people are just trying to keep their jobs or their nice fat paychecks from Qatar. Who are they, Shoshana? Let's go through them.
Well, we have multiple nominations from this category. Bernie Sanders, Jewish Voice for Peace, and Norman Finkelstein. And I will read a lovely email that we got that nominates Norman that says, Dear Fleur and your team at The Quad, your podcast is very informative and entertaining. The Scumbags and Heroes section is the best. First off, I just want to say I'm an American Jewish teenage boy living alone in Israel, and I love LOVE capital, your show with the 4 exclamation marks. And I just want to say that made me so happy.
Michael, the fact that these are kids are kids' ages, and they still think a bunch of.
I don't even know if my kids know I have this show.
I'm the elf. I know my kids don't watch my show.
You can take whatever you want. Yeah. So thank you for watching and loving us. He says, as for Scumbag of the Year, it's got to be either Unruwa, we'll get to you, or Norman Finkelstein. Thanks for all the hard work that you do. And I feel like I understand this feeling. Like I understand looking at Jews who are throwing us under the bus, don't live here, don't even experience what's happening to us here, and are experiencing or seeing at least what's happening outside of Israel, and yet blame your own people. Yeah, that's a certain kind of pain. Like it's one thing, Mehdi Hassan. Okay, what connection does he have? You can say he's ignorant. Who knows? But like, you guys are like literally throwing your family under the bus. Come and figure out what's happening. Come and talk to us. Come and like at least experience and have a conversation.
At least give your family, as you said, the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
It's the opposite. They jump on anything we do, and I think there's a
like I'm a good Jew. I'm a good Jew.
There's a psychological
That comes to this though. Gabor Mate.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Gabor.
All that family.
Yeah.
So freaking Assad supporting. Like this dude is Aaron. He went to the UN to claim that the entire chemical gassing of Assad against Arabs, by the way, was falsified. Like, dude, are you serious? And of course, you see all these people like Rania Khalek and Aaron and all these people trying to turn now. Oh, well, I was against Assad. No, you weren't. You defended this guy for years. You defend human rights abuses against Arabs and Jews alike. These people are disgusting.
It's so disgusting. He also denied and wrote an article with Max Blumenthal that there were no sexual crimes on October 7th. And I had the pleasure.
It's a good thing we have men to explain this to us.
Yes. I had the pleasure of coining a brand new insult on Piers Morgan when I called him a rape denier. That's our latte. Who did you want?
So proud of you.
Oh, Gabor.
There were a couple of people. So Gabor Mate for sure. I want to add Dave Smith to this category as well.
Jewish?
Yes, and he claims that he's Jewish. So I have this theory about Dave Smith that his dad is Jewish, and I am not like the halachic police, like, okay, your dad's Jewish, you're not real. But I don't believe your wife is, I don't think your children are, and I want you to come for Shabbat dinner. I have a theory that Gabor Mate and Norm Finkelstein and Dave Smith and Jon Stewart, who I believe has a brother who's a rabbi somewhere, someone told me that, or an uncle, there's something that happened to you. You all married non-Jews. You all do not care so much about practicing Judaism. I want you to come to me for Shabbos because I don't think you're a scumbag, I'm sorry to say. I don't like using that term. I like using...
Well, you're in the wrong show,
I can't help it. Offering in the peace and love. No, I think the way to help these people is bring them for Shabbat dinner.
There's no house of these people.
There's Barb.
Well, I live reviews. This is called The View, not The View.
I wish you were right, and I used to be like you. I used to
Bring her back. Bring her back. I'm bringing you back home.
I am somebody who has people for Shabbos every week. But I think I'm with Emily. I think these people are beyond redemption. Our good friend of the show, Michael Rapaport, had a few choice words for these self-loathing Jews.
Scumbag of the week. Could be scumbag of the year. Norman Pig Sweat Finkelstein. Norman Pig Sweat Finkelstein, who was on with Fleur on Piers Morgan. I don't know why Piers or anybody would have that dog, that old dog, that sweaty pig, Norman Finkelstein on their show, that self-hating con artist on their show. But he's the scumbag of the week. Norman Finkelstein. Maybe your parents didn't teach you. You don't put your fingers up. You don't raise a hand to a woman, especially a Jewish woman, you sweaty pig. You sweaty pig. You are the scumbag of the week, possibly the scumbag of the year, but we need to crunch the numbers. You scumbag Norman Finkelstein.
Moving on. Now we went for the self-loathing Jews. Now we're moving to number 8, who are the woke right. As my friend Karis Ria, who was on the show recently, spoke about them. These are Candace Owens, but more dangerously even Tucker Carlson, people who consider themselves anti-Israel, anti-Zionists, or plain anti-Semites from the right. Who are these people?
Well, I can read you one Candace Owens nomination from the mailbag. Do we say mailbag anymore? Because it's all email. I like it. It's such a like outdated term. I'm old.
Mailbag sounds great.
I think it sounds great.
Well, there actually was a mailbag. Like used to be. I know you're young, Emily, but there used to be actually a mailbag. The mailman used to carry around.
My teenage son's watching. I'm thinking,
No clue I'm doing this with. Okay. Candace Owens devoted her year to raising one anti-Semitic conspiracy after another and then profiting off of them.
True.
She's uniquely dangerous in that she is a creation of right-wing Jews, namely Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro. She has millions of followers. When people like Piers Morgan interview her, they give her softball questions for reasons that boggle the mind. I personally find Candace to be so nauseating that I can't watch her, I can't listen to her.
Me too.
It is either she's absolutely nuts and needs help, or she is so calculated and so aware of what she's doing, which is scarier to me than the idea that she actually might be nuts.
It's simple, Shoshana. To be relevant, she's realized that she gets a lot of attention, a lot of airtime by being anti-Semitic because now it's trendy. It's as simple as that. I just want to read the...
Like Jay Shields, basically.
Yes.
Who also is a good nominee.
So I want to continue with the same email because she had a good point. In Morgan's latest interview with Owens on his show, Owens says that there is a video of Netanyahu saying that he wants to sabotage the Abraham Accords. Who brought... Bibi, love him or hate him, he brought the Abraham Accords. The video she's referring to is about the Oslo Accords, but she doesn't know the difference because she's a fool. Of course, Morgan didn't correct her, just like he fed her softball after softball. But I just want to say one thing, and then we'll discuss it because you have a bee in your bonnet about dates. Smith. Tucker Carlson is way more dangerous than Candace Owens.
Interesting.
Because he has the ear of people in the White House,
Right.
mainly Trump's son and others. And that is scarier. And this is something that we should be worried about. The same woke right. You had somebody else that bothers you.
Yeah, but before we go there, I wanted to say one other thing about Candace. Does anyone notice that she pronounces Haaretz for Haaretz, the paper? She's always quoting Haaretz. And
Yes.
she's like, well, Haaretz said, and it's just,
I love how she was so excited to discover Haaretz. Like, as if this is, oh, well, I started reading Haaretz. Like, come on. The only thing I want to doubt about Candace is that all of her arguments are completely devoid of any academic credibility. It's like she Googles conspiracy, right? It's like, look at the Frankists. Like, dude, what are you doing? There's nothing credible about what you're saying, which is funny because, like, there are plenty of things to criticize about Israel. But she'll, like, latch onto these things like the, 9/11 truther conspiracies on YouTube. Well, look, the dollar bill points this direction, which relates to the stars, which relates to somebody else who said something once on TV, and therefore the Jews are behind everything. That's Candace Owens.
The thing is that lunatic conspiracy theorists are having their moment in the sun right now. Right. That's how crazy the world has gotten.
some things are called conspiracy theories and aren't. Like, I actually happen to be somewhat friends with RFK, and the things that he says are not always a conspiracy, and they actually are important and should be called out as non-conspiracies. But what I do think on that point is that the conspiracy theories that she and Dave Smith had talked about, and I'm going to bring up Dave again. Dave, I love you. I'm not trying to bag on you. I don't think you're a scumbag. I just think you're really misguided.
Wants you over for Shabbos.
I really want you over for Shabbos. I think you, Jon Stewart, me, yay, Candace, let's do it. Let's have some l'chaim. No, I mean it. I really have hope, okay? I'm a very lady.
Yeah, we'll hang with Kim.
Oh, I like him too. But the thing with Dave and Candace is that they do this thing that I've noticed, and I think a lot of these people, including Tucker, have this in common. They don't know when to say, maybe I was wrong. And I have a coffee company. It's called 4 Little Words Coffee, and we have one flavor called Maybe I Was Wrong. Just one sip, and you'll rethink your election votes. But the point is that I really have a hard time with her because she never has said, maybe I was wrong in this. Have you? I've never heard her say that. So then they double down and what? Feel bad for you. There's this thing called teshuvah where you it's a Jewish concept where you go backwards a little bit and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that and I'm sorry. Megyn Kelly does it. Ben Shapiro has a whole thing on his website where he says all the places he was wrong. Wow. You need to be able to, Dennis Prager will say, I was wrong. I didn't mean to slip in the shower. We all have to be able to do that. Otherwise, how are you going to learn, grow?
My favorite lie and idiocy of Candace Owens is when she said that the quarters of the old city, i.e. the Jewish, the Armenian, the Christian, and the Muslim, are ghettos that people can't get out of. Lady, you're crazy. But again, I want to bring this back to the fact that it's Tucker Carlson who is the dangerous one because she's too stupid to be as dangerous as
well. She's dangerous because she has a big part of the Christian black vote, and I support those people, and I do a lot of black and Jewish unity work. And when I see my friends going, yeah, I can't, Candace, in that tone, of course, they're always going towards it, and it's a little scary. So,
Candace Owens, you have the honor of being our number 8 Scumbag of the Year, along with your friend Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, and all the other people on the woke right who I don't know what side of the bed they woke up on. They're going to find out very soon. Okay, moving on. Number 7, the college protesters. And we have a very special message from another friend of the show about those protesters.
Hey, I am so glad that these people got a coveted spot as one of the scumbags of the year. The jihadist students of America's Ivy League, who cosplayed being terrorists for a year in their stinky track pants and keffiyehs. These easily manipulated, spoiled, privileged teenagers from America's wealthiest families believed every word of jihadist propaganda laid out before them by the Islamic regime and Muslim Brotherhood's misinformation campaign. They took to the streets, occupied their college campuses, and even took over a building and then demanded humanitarian aid. In university, these kids are taught to believe that the Iranian Revolution was a positive movement against American imperialism, and that the Zionist entity, otherwise known as the State of Israel, must be destroyed for the sake of all humanity. We must free Palestine. Some of my favorite jihadist chants were, "Resistance is justified when people are occupied. Antifada, revolution, globalize the Antifada. NYPD, KKK, IDF, they're all the same. We don't want no two-state, we want all of it." And my favorite, Israel. Israel's a bitch. There you go, guys.
Ladies, we've talked about this the whole year. What is going on? The woke left.
Aye.
I mean, I don't think we can talk about scumbags this year without talking about campus protesters. It's a combination of people who have absolutely no clue what's going on. No. The moral narcissism we've talked about on this show. They want to be a part of something and they think they're fighting for justice and they don't know. But I think that it is doing a disservice to this whole protest movement to assume that they just don't know. There are a lot of people, in particular the people leading these movements, that are explicitly pro-terrorism, they are explicitly pro-violence, they are explicitly pro the Islamic regime in Iran, which is murdering Arabs, Muslims, and Arab other minorities all over the Middle East. Not to mention Israelis, of course, and then, yeah, of course, you see them cheering for the Houthis, who are killing American and British soldiers throughout the last year, who are disrupting global shipping routes, who have contributed to the terrible economic situation globally, and these idiots are cheering for them, waving flags. By the way, the Houthi flag says, "Death to Israel, death to America, and curse the Jews." That is literally the slogan. That's what these students are standing for, and I don't believe for a second that all of them don't know this.
And
many of them do.
And on top of that, they're too cowardly to even show their faces. They hide their faces. You know why? Because they know that nobody's ever going to employ them. So I honestly want to lead a movement to never employ these idiots again. And I think there are some big companies in America, law firms that have said, if we know who you are, you're not getting a job with us. I applaud that.
I mean, how can you? How can you employ someone who is either so ignorant that they don't know what they're supporting, and they're not smart enough to care to know what they're supporting, or they know what they're supporting and they're supporting, you mentioned the Houthis, they have child soldiers and child brides. Like, don't tell me the Houthis are defending the children of Gaza when they literally have children in their army and they marry off girls at 12 and 13. Like,
Not to mention the fact that there's
what are you talking about?
against Israel on the issue of starvation and humanitarian aid, which of course are false. You know where it's not false?
Yeah.
Yemen.
Yeah.
Yemen is where it's not false. It's a horrific famine.
They have
was
cities
aided
there.
by the Houthis. They were using food as a method of war.
Yes.
Unlike, by the way, Israel.
Purposely starving.
Insanity.
Israel with the more than
defending this group.
Israel with the more than 1 million tons of food that it has let in since the beginning of the war. It's absolutely ridiculous. You are ridiculous. I hope, you know what I really hope, that when they're now not in their early 20s or 18 or 19, in 10 years' time, when you can't get a job and you realize how wrong you were, that they do have Barb's coffees.
But outside round, maybe I was wrong. It's Mew.
Maybe I was wrong. Okay, moving on. Number 6, which is the mainstream media. And for our resident journalist, Emily, take it away.
I could spend an hour on only this one, but I'll keep it short because I know we all have contributions here. So when it comes to the media, obviously BBC at the top of the list, which I'm sure we'll hear more about, but throughout this entire operation, refusing to call Hamas a terrorist organization, which of course is contrary to UK law, despite the fact that BBC is UK state media, but okay. And then, of course, we have Al Jazeera, who has been a spokesperson for Hamas throughout this operation. And even prior to that, a spokesperson for terrorism. They even had an on-air birthday party for Samir Kuntar, one of the Hezbollah terrorists from a while back, now dead, who literally murdered an Israeli child with the butt of his rifle. Yes, an on-air birthday party. But Al Jazeera has a long track record of this stuff. During this war, they also completely falsified stories, totally out of the blue. They accused Israel of falsely claiming that babies were murdered and claimed that Israel released an AI-generated photo that was actually a puppy when in fact it was a dead infant. So this is the type of stuff that you have coming from Al Jazeera. And of course, how could I not mention the fact that many of their correspondents in Gaza, and some of them freelancers, and for legal purposes, some of their freelancers are active members of Hamas, in some cases commanders of Hamas, who took part in the October 7th massacre. And then, of course, last but not least, all of the media has been citing Hamas's statistics. There is zero evidence for this as of now. And of course, what you see coming from Hamas is that there are exactly zero combatants in this entire war. Now tell me, does that make sense to you that there would be zero combatants? If it doesn't, then you too have a problem with really all of the mainstream media throughout this war. And now all of you can join in.
Where do we even start? For me, what really gets to me, and these are things that it's very difficult to roll back, are the poisonous headlines.
Yes, yeah.
You know, we had, unfortunately, Hezbollah murdered 10, 11 Druze kids in Major Sham. Was 12 in Major Sham. These are little kids in a soccer field, football, sorry for the British, in a field. And the headline by the CNN and the BBC was like, 12 killed in Israel's fight with Hezbollah. Are you kidding me? 12 children that were murdered? The poisonous headlines are the worst. Bob, you had an experience?
I did. I had an experience.
Go on.
A pleasant experience. When I was doing my show in the Edinburgh Fringe this summer, I was stopped by a Bahrainian man. Did I say that correctly? Bahrainian man who was about 60 years old. He didn't have any garb on him that made him look religious in any way. And he came up to me and he saw my little star right here. And he said, "Oh, you're Jewish?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "But you're not Zionist, are you?" I said, "Of course I am. I'm so happy to be. I believe Israel has a right to exist." And it's broad daylight. There was hundreds of thousands of people walking by. It's like the Epcot Center of theater. So it's wall-to-wall theater every day. And I'm handing out flyers for my show. And I didn't expect this at all. He started to spit at me. He told me I was a colonizer. He told me to go back home. And I said, "Where do you think my home is?" And he proceeded to tell me that this has always been, chas v'shalom, Palestine, and that only in 1948, I don't know where he gets his ideas, but...
No, you do, the BBC.
What's the same? There was... Michael Rapaport, come in, help me with this. No, not yet. But anyway, no, it's okay. He finally, I say to him, "Where do you get your news from?" And he says, "Of course, the BBC and the UN." And I thought, and then I started doing something that every good comedian/sociologist, which I do every day, I ask people, "Where do you get your news?" And every single person I met in Edinburgh, did I say it right? They all said the BBC and the UN and Al Jazeera. And I was like, it's a numbers game. We'll always been a small but mighty group, and we have to be more powerful.
So I want to...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be quick.
Go ahead.
I also want to add something about Al Jazeera that's really important, I think, also for our viewers, and that is that most of the countries in the Middle East have banned Al Jazeera, including, by the way, most recently, the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority has banned Al Jazeera. Now, are you hearing about that on BBC? Are you hearing about that in the international media?
The Emirates have banned them.
Yep. Exactly.
The Bahrain has banned them.
Yeah.
And now the Palestinian Authority.
Exactly.
But the West still loves them and gets the news from them. I just want to read out a very brave tweet, I think. You're not supposed to call them tweets anymore. From Nicole Lampassett.
I love her.
Okay, so this is what she writes. "I've been a journalist all my working life, and I love my fellow journalists. But I have to ask, what the hell is going on with our TV reporters on the issue of Israel? Because someone is going insane, and I don't believe it's me. If you look at the British television reports on the IDF attack on the Kamal Adwan hospital, basic journalism is totally missing. The question of why did something happen is a tenet, a central pillar of journalism. Why would Israel, knowing the critical eyes of the world is on them, attack hospitals if they weren't fighting terrorists? If you look at this report, you will see 15 seconds is given to explore this why. Israel says it was being used as a headquarters for Hamas before sniffling and adding, but has not provided any evidence to support this. In the meantime, the BBC report provided no evidence of other things that were being said and doesn't explain where or what the repeated footage we are being shown is meant to be. The BBC report is more interested in war porn and asking key questions. So I asked the BBC News and Sky, Why haven't you mentioned that their acting hospital director, Hassan Abu Safia, is a Hamas colonel whose rank was confirmed by Hamas in 2018? Why don't you mention that this is a Hamas military hospital as described by Palestinian media? Why the eyebrow raising over claims it was used by Hamas, even though doctors who have worked there recently have testified seeing Hamas leaders hiding there? In short, why is the BBC, which was once a highly respected news agency and the voice of the free world, allowing itself to be taken as a fool by a terrorist organization? I don't think anything expresses what this woman...
I just want to add about the Palestinian Authority that in response to this accusation, the Palestinian Authority themselves, who are currently fighting against Hamas and affiliated terror groups in Jenin, there's like a gunfight almost every day going on between the two, the Palestinian Authority themselves released evidence of a Palestinian being summoned to this hospital for military interrogation by Hamas. This is what they released. The Palestinian Authority is providing evidence that BBC isn't sharing. I mean, this is how bad the media has been on this issue. Just inexcusable.
And I want to let's say that in creating blood libels, what they don't understand is that this affects Jews.
This is exactly what I was going to say, because David Collier, our friend who does tremendous work over on X, and he really exposes the media bias. It's not just about Israel, okay? I'm just going to read the first, and we'll put up the tweets because it's really, really important. A few days ago, I saw a Facebook post from a rabbi in Jerusalem saying he was mistreated in a BBC News interview. Yeah. He was told it was about Hanukkah, and then he just faced a barrage of aggressive questions. So I checked, and it was even worse than the rabbi even realized. And he goes on to show that it was an imam, a priest, and a rabbi were all given interview time. The imam and the priest were given very lightfall questions with like holiday background, B-roll behind them. The rabbi had aggressive questions about Israel, about the Israeli army, with tanks behind him.
Yeah.
So it's not just about Israel. It goes into a rabbi. If you're talking about a religious leader, you are absolutely making the correlation visually and aggressively with your words between what Israel is doing and all the Jews. So BBC, it's not just that you're a crappy media outlet, but you are aggressive and, like Fleur said, showing, creating blood libels, connections, and endangering the Jews that watch, as you have pointed out, Barbara, that the Jews are endangered by the people who watch your shows. It's unacceptable.
Absolutely. I know the rabbi, Gideon Sylvester. He's a great guy, and thankfully he was British and defended himself very well. Actually, he did a good job. So, but we would be remiss not to mention the Assassin report that quantified the bias. Actually went into it. Khaled Hassan was one of their researchers, and he came here and he spoke about what they did and how they did it so well. And recently, Andrew Fox, who did some research talking about how the numbers cannot be real. So again, do better. You are actually become Al Jazeera, and everybody knows who they are. And the normal Sunni moderate Arabs have banned them. So what are you still doing talking for terrorists? Number 5, Scumbags of the Year. We have the European left-wing leaders. Who are they? David Lammy in Britain, who is the foreign secretary from the Labour Party. The Spanish president, one of my favorites, Pedro Sanchez, who has been despicable. Any more that we can throw in?
Ireland.
They all love Ireland?
All except 5.
We would definitely say Scotland. I do not feel welcome there. There's a really great Chabad in the middle of Edinburgh, but
yes, yes. The Scottish leader has also been particularly bad. You're right. Ireland's been
horrific.
But basically, the European left, who really don't understand why. First of all, they don't understand how their double standards. They're calling out Israel, ignoring other conflicts. The double standards, the demonizing of Israel, and the delegitimization of Israel is anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're aware. Do you?
I think some of them are and some of them aren't. I mean, I think Lammy is trying to play both sides. I think that he's facing, we know there's problems in the Labour Party still. I think he's trying to play both sides on this issue, and he doesn't want to further escalate an already very volatile population that is not behaving in accordance with the law within the UK. And so he's throwing Israel under the bus. I don't believe he's as anti-Israel as he has portrayed himself.
So he has no backbone in all.
That's not surprising.
They're pandering to a crazy jihadi section of the population in the UK. They won't call them out, and then anybody that calls them out, they call them an extreme right.
Right.
That's what they do. And what they've done is they've decided not to supply Israel with certain weaponry that we don't really need. We're going to win the war anyway, David Lammy. But it causes a terrible precedent, and you keep supplying Saudi Arabia and lots of other countries that you could really also talk about their human rights record. Israel has a fantastic record. Well, you try and twist the truth.
Australia's not in the European, it's not in Europe, but gets a special mention, don't you think? For not taking care of its Jews, and for, only after there's a synagogue that's firebombed and Torah scrolls burned and people really, their lives, like, thank God it was actually a miracle that nobody was actually killed in these firebombs. That then they come out, but they watched it happen. You just sat back and watched it happen. So Australia is not in Europe, and so I know we said the European left, but we have to mention Australia.
Yeah, they let the right, whatever you want to call them, do that little dance in front of the city hall there. I don't know if you remember this past week, there was a bunch of like neo-Nazis that came out and they said, well, the Jews probably did their own firing of their own, and how do we even know it's true?
Oh, I didn't see that.
They're catching people on the same way that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, probably just very well-meaningly, but really off the bait and bat, like they don't know what they're talking about, saying that if the Jews don't let us say things that are anti-Semitic, then and why are you calling everything anti-Semitic? Then you're choking us and they're censoring us. So
what's interesting to me,
very convenient way of being.
It doesn't seem to me, or maybe they're just being cynical, that they make the connection between being rabidly anti-Israel and the anti-Semitism in their country.
Come on. Why? They can make it, I'm sorry. I cannot, because when they worry about Islamophobia and they say that if we're Islamophobic and we criticize terrorists, then the regular Muslims on the streets are going to be attacked. So what are we? They can make a connection on the right, but they can't make it on the left? Like, what does that even mean?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Also,
Don't you know that you're not allowed to insult any Muslims, but of course you can do anything against any other groups. This is the mentality because it's rooted in Islamic supremacy. This is what their goal is at the end of the day. Anybody whose goal is that is going to have a hypocritical standard towards anyone who isn't Muslim. Of course, that isn't all Muslims. However, it is a big problem.
Yes, it's the marriage, the toxic marriage of the woke left with Islamofascism. And that's what we have in Europe. Yeah. We see it, of course, in Australia, as you said. But Europe has become, honestly, almost hostage to this. And we just hope you wake up because it's going to be too late for you. Very good.
It's already too late. When I got off the plane in London, it was jobs everywhere. And I did try to interview some females because I always go for the women. And
Did you invite them for Shabbos?
No, because they're Muslim. But I love Muslims. And I really, 80% for sure that like is with us and is just afraid to say it. I always try to get them on camera, and I do. And then they'll say, can you please take that off because I'm going to be killed? And I'm like, no.
oh, wow.
Every time. Because they'll say, I love Israel. I don't want to hurt Israel. And then they say,
That's taking
We hope those voices have many friends in that camp of moderate Muslim voices, moderate Arab voices. Yes. And we pray that they are the ones that are heard in 2025.
Amen.
the women, please.
Always.
That is the theme.
So number 5, Scumbags of the Year were the European left, and we'll add in Australia. Okay, number 4. We're getting closer to the number 1 Scumbag of the Year. Okay. Number 4 is the ICC, the International Criminal Court.
Throw an ICJ too.
We could throw an ICJ, yes. The lawfare, we could just say lawfare in general. But Emily, why are the ICC particularly scumbaggy this year?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't just focus on the ICC. I would focus on the ICJ, and South Africa, actually. Bringing accusations of genocide and apartheid and ethnic, everything else, everything bad in the universe, apparently the Jews are doing. That's what you would think if you were in the International Criminal Court. But the fact that they've politicized these international bodies that are intended to focus on combating crimes against humanity, on holding people accountable for crimes against humanity, and that, they haven't issued an arrest warrant for Assad, who chemically gassed his own people, but they have for Netanyahu, both of which both of which are not members of, they haven't signed on to the Rome Statute. So people say, well, they didn't do Assad because of that. But they did do Netanyahu because the UN Security Council pushed forward a resolution to call for his...
When there's a will, there's a way, guys.
Exactly. But that is so important. It must be done.
Yeah.
But, someone butchering Arab Muslims en masse is apparently not important enough for the ICC. The disgusting, cynical hypocrisy that we see from these people who are supposed to be defending or at least speaking out and educating on behalf of human rights.
I think they've cooked their goose. And if there's any proof of how ridiculous they are, that Ireland joined now the case against Israel and asked to change the definition of genocide because we didn't fit. So, they tried to change the rules.
Circle around your target.
They tried to change the rules to persecute Jews. Have we heard that before? Has that happened before? 4,000-year history? It's happening.
Ringing a bell.
ICC, ICJ, you're not original. You are just a twisted version of the Dreyfus trial, which is what got Theodore Herzl to decide that the Jews needed a state. So you keep going, because all you're doing is strengthening our resolve to get bigger, better, stronger, and more Jews to come here. So thanks for that. Yeah. You are definitely deserve the title of number 4 Scumbags of the Year. Okay, we're getting closer. And for the next one, we have a very special guest.
An OG.
An OG, the OG of the Quad, our good friend, former ambassador of Canada to Israel, Vivian Berkovich.
Hi, it's my distinct honor, and I'm a little sad, to be explaining why Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau so richly deserves to be scumbag number 3. When he was elected in 2015, he was adored. Justin was cute, he had a full head of hair, he was young, he was progressive, he was the package. He was on the cover of Vogue and Rolling Stone magazine. But we know now that Justin is a lot more, and it's not good. The economy in Canada is in the gutter. Violent crime is surging. Homelessness is surging. We also know that particularly since October 7th, anti-Semitism is surging. Canada is home to the 4th largest Jewish community in the world, after Israel, the United States, and France. There are just under 400,000 Jews in Canada, and they are concentrated in the Toronto area, primarily where I'm from, also Montreal. There are constant demonstrations in the streets of Toronto and Montreal by pro-Hamas thugs and their so-called progressive allies. Jewish schools have been firebombed and hit with Molotov cocktails repeatedly. Synagogues, same thing. Jewish-owned businesses have been targeted and vandalized, and their patrons threatened. There are constant demonstrations, many of which are violent, in the streets of Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver sometimes. And these protesters walk around calling for the annihilation of Israel and the murder of Jews. They shout hateful slogans. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau consistently says they are peaceful protesters exercising their constitutional rights. And that's just not true. There's nothing peaceful about calling for the annihilation of a country. There is nothing peaceful about calling for the murder of Jews. And none of that is protected in the Canadian Constitution. There will be an election at the end of October 2025, and good riddance, Justin Trudeau.
Now, I have to say that Emily and I know that when Vivian was a permanent co-host on our show before she moved down south in her pioneering new phase of life, she would come up with Justin Trudeau as a scumbag very regularly. And we always said, we need to get a bell because she would do it so often. But honestly, if anybody's been proven right this whole year, it's Vivian. Absolutely. Because now Trudeau's own party want to kick him out, and it's got nothing to do with Israel. Finally, this man couldn't run a corner shop. And he's run his country to the ground, and his own party is saying, we can't take this anymore. His economy's down the toilet. His immigration has been completely lost control.
Oh, yeah.
He's failed in every single way.
No.
So he really...
The Canadians are fed up. But hopefully we'll get Pierre.
Yes, I mean, he looks amazing. He looks amazing. I mean, he sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
But let's throw in also with Trudeau Penny Wong, who is the foreign minister. And honestly, if there's a bigger scumbag than Trudeau in Canada, I think it's Penny Wong. You are our number 3. Big honor, big kavod. Number 3 scumbags.
The bronze medalist.
The bronze.
Fly over to pick up your medal.
Bronze in the scumbag Olympics. Good one, Emily. Okay.
Need a little like Oscar.
We really are.
We need drum rolls for number 2 and number 1. I think there's a pretty obvious one, and I think we have some mail in our mailbag about this. The UN. Yeah. Now, the UN, I want to include there all the UN bodies, because there are many UN bodies, and each one is worse than the next. So let's start with the micro, and let's move up to the macro. Micro, we have UNRWA, which is the United Nations Relief and Workers Association, that has basically kept the Palestinians in a constant state of victimhood for over now 75 years. Their educational curriculum is toxic and anti-Semitic, and basically tells children that the best thing they can achieve in their lives is to murder, to basically kill themselves for the cause. They're disgraceful, and the whole world is funding them. Okay, other UN bodies, ladies?
I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
It's hard to narrow down.
Want to take UNIFIL?
Well, UNIFIL, this is a whole other issue. I mean, for 15 years, they were my scumbag at some point during this war.
Well, they were.
But they've been accusing Israel and Lebanon of targeting their bases and doing all kinds of things against them, when in fact it's actually their job to disarm Hezbollah, according to the United Nations itself, the resolutions that have been passed, 1557 and also 1701. None of them have been enforced. They're also responsible for keeping Hezbollah from being at that border, from firing at Israel. Well, obviously, that didn't work out. And they've had billions and billions and billions of dollars, including from U.S. taxpayers, to fund this initiative, UNIFIL, interim peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon.
Sure.
Yeah, so they've clearly done absolutely nothing on this front, and definitely are worthy of being included in this category of the silver medal for scumbags. I think UNRWA's a little bit worse, but just
less. Then we've got the Syrian UN so-called peacekeeping force, UNSDOP, UNSCOP, whatever their name is, who needed to be rescued by Israel, and then complained that we were there to begin with to rescue them. It just gets worse. And then we move up the totem pole, and who is the head of the UN? A repeat scumbag on our show. Guterres. You know, you are Portuguese. My family was kicked out of Spain and Portugal many, many years ago. So how dare you condemn Israel at every single turn, continue to perpetuate blood libels, and then go and kiss tuchus with Putin, the guy who should be in the
with the Taliban.
With the Taliban.
They've put forward several different commissions on, talking with Afghanistan. And guess who wasn't invited to be a part of any of these? Oh, that's right, women. Any of them, because it's the freaking Taliban. And instead of actually having a moral spine and doing something about it, Gutierrez, led by Gutierrez and the UN, are like, that's fine. Just this once. It's okay that we have gender apartheid.
Under the bus.
It's okay. We'll just have a meeting and talk with them. Because clearly the Taliban will change their mind.
Sure.
I mean, he's just so pathetic. It took the UN 3 months to say anything about the sexual crimes of October 7th. Then there was actually a decent woman who was in charge of investigating sexual crimes. And guess what? She found the sexual crimes that are committed. Aaron Mati, this one's for you. And then she was miraculously fired. They did not resume her.
Well, I guess she doesn't fit the UN.
She didn't fit their narrative, which is
Seriously.
Israel bashing. And maybe UN, maybe they've come to the end of the line, as the League of Nations did.
Well, you know who would know? Our friend Hill Neuer.
That's a good point. Let him talk about it for a little bit. I think I'm even more depressed than when you got here, to be honest, because everywhere you look, it seems like there's a political, international, legal campaign to delegitimize Israel and to ensure that all of these arms of that delegitimization strategy are working great and are funded by the world, who are blind to this. Is there any hope that things are going to change?
They are gaslighting us. What's happening with UNRWA, they had a recent donors meeting in New York, a conference. 118 countries said UNRWA is great. We're being gaslighted. Francesca Albanese, we didn't talk enough about her, but she just tweeted the other day saying that Israel should be unseated from the UN. She has no authority to do that as a UN rapporteur. She needs to be held to account. Where are the democracies who sit on the Human Rights Council in the United States, France, Germany? They're not holding her to account. We need to hold these people to account. They are abusing sacred mandate to promote human rights, and we're not going to give up.
Yes, how could we forget the special rapporteur?
Thank God.
Francesca Albanese. You know what my favorite...
Every time I see her, my blood just...
You know what my favorite part of this whole year was? Seeing her on Piers Morgan pretending she didn't know who Hillel Neuer, the bane of her life, was. Watch this.
You were accused by Hillel Neuer, who was the ex-director of UN Watch.
Who?
Hillel Neuer, who was the executive director of UN Watch. Sorry, not ex, but executive director of UN Watch. Do you know Hillel Neuer?
I know UN Watch. I think I know.
Whoever it was, who's the executive director of UN Watch, called you out on X for what they said were anti-Semitic remarks. Said that.
Just for that, the year was honestly this was the squirming Albanese on Piers Morgan for a change. That was fun.
She called us occupiers without borders on Twitter, on X yesterday.
Occupiers. I mean, of course, we're not occupiers. This was our land, and there was never a Palestinian
Why don't you come
state
over here, lady?
before 48. But obviously, Francesca needs a history lesson. She's too disgusting to even mention. I don't want to give her any more airtime.
Maybe you should look at the borders surrounding the 25 Arab countries that are occupying all.
One day, people will look back and say, "What?" Yeah, that's you, the UN. That's
willing.
Okay, ladies,
Number one.
gold medal.
And speaking of occupiers,
Great segue, Emily.
the Islamic regime in Iran, the greatest occupier in the Middle East, or should I say colonizer?
Yes.
Because that
All
is
of the
the
above.
reality of what's happening under Khamenei, who is number one, our gold medalist, along with, of course, the now deceased Nasrallah and Sinwar. So since two of the three gold medalists, I guess Khamenei will have to accept it on behalf of both of them. I mean, they've been subverting the values of the West. It's not just about Israel. This regime has been doing this from...
They're terrorists. I mean, there's no good.
45
There's nothing
years.
good about them. Like we're laughing because horrible people are dead, not because. I just feel like people like get annoyed sometimes with our scumbags. They're like, it's so mean. No, it is good when bad people are gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it is good. You have to know evil and good. Emily, please.
And I think that approximately 80 million people inside of Iran actually agree with us on this. The most common message I get from Iran is, please take out Khamenei. Please target IRGC bases. We don't want this anymore. I mean, these people are screaming from the rooftops for assistance. And instead of helping them, and I don't, by the way, mean by bombing them, I mean helping them in any other way, even enforcement of existing sanctions and Joe Biden, just stop propping up their oppressors. That's all you have to do.
Funding
Stop
them.
helping them.
Stop helping them.
Yeah.
Let the Iranian people do their own work, but let's support them. Let's stand behind them. Let's help them. That's the least we could do. Why is anybody helping dictators that are putting women and killing them, that are hanging LGBT community on their rooftops? Wake up, people. This is the Hitler of today.
Yes. And I want to add something about women because this has been an issue in this war. This entire idea, it's not new, okay? Rape as a method of war is not something new. It's existed throughout all of human history. But this modern return to a savage, barbaric, primitive conduct, a type of normalization of this behavior is coming straight from the Khomeinist ideology. It is coming straight from the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is a tactic they have used against their own people, both male and female, underage and, of course, adults, to oppress, to put down uprisings, to silence their own people. And it's something that we see emulated with all of their proxy groups. The Houthis, same tactics. Hezbollah, there have been multiple reports about how they're using this type of sexual oppression to control women in particular, but also men within the ranks of Hezbollah. We also see it, of course, from Hamas, what we saw on October 7th and ongoing from Islamic Jihad. All of this is the ideology of the Islamic regime in Iran. There is no separation between the two, despite the fact that some of these organizations are Sunni and some of them are Shia. And I think that this is something that every single person on earth should be taking a stand against. Whether you hate Israel, love Israel, it doesn't matter, because this is not about Israel. It's about humanity. And it is not something that anybody should be tolerating.
Nicely done. Why isn't that on CNN? This is the thing that everyone should be talking about.
That is the moral voice that we are lacking.
Civil rights, common sense civil rights. When you listen to the news, go home and think about it for a second before you turn on the news anywhere, whether it's on your phone, and think to yourself, does this person who's giving me the news, do they care about basic things like human rights, civil rights, God, some sort of laws in the world? Or are they just spewing something that Pfizer put in front of them?
You have to get the
On CNN, so.
All right, let's not go there.
Sorry.
It has really, for us, it was a vision that we had at the beginning, that we were seeing so much hatred, so much vile around us, that we wanted to have a moment in our show, which is normally intelligent discussion, to just call out those people. A lot of people say to me, oh, it's not a good word to use on the show.
There are much worse.
There are much, believe me.
I can provide you a list if you'd like.
The other options were much worse, and we came to this one because nothing quite described it. I tried to put in the word cretin, but I was told that the Americans didn't know.
Do you mean
that
cretin?
word. Cretin.
Yeah, no, Americans would not know it.
An accent.
Sorry, I have an accent. So, but I was told that nobody would understand, and nothing really describes these people as the word scumbag. So I'm sorry if this has offended any of you. For us, it's been a combination of needing to call out the haters and therapy for us, because we've been through a horrible year. We've been through a horrible year and a half, and this is nothing. We have people who've lost children, who still have their children in dungeons in Gaza. And so there's so many more scumbags to talk about. But what we always try and finish the show with is a little prayer that by the time we come back, and now we're coming back in 2025, that all of our loved ones will be home, that all of our soldiers will be safe. We only have ever wanted peace. And so we give a little prayer for those loved ones to come home, and for a much better 2025 than we had to.
I'm sorry, I have to push back.
Uh-oh.
I don't think that we only want peace. I don't only want peace, I want justice. And the fact that we are dealing with what we've dealt with for the past year and a half, and the fact that we have young women who are still in captivity, it is not enough to have peace. There needs to be accountability for what has happened to those people, and for what these, our gold medal winners have done to their own people, and to the people of the Middle East, and to the people of South America, and to the people of North America, and to the people of Europe. There is no peace without some sort of accountability for that. And I think that's actually one of the reasons it's so important. We joke and we're laughing and we're calling them scumbags, but it's important that we educate people about who these people really are, because quite frankly, the media isn't doing it, as we mentioned. So it is important to talk about these things, and it isn't just about the pursuit of peace. Yes, peace is the ultimate goal, but it's also about justice. And so I invite all of our followers to speak up and join us in calling out your scumbags as well. I'm not joking. I actually want you to speak more openly about this issue, because more people need to know.
I couldn't have said it better, Emily. You're right. It's not just about peace. We want peace, but there has to be justice for the people who've been lost and the people who are still being tortured every single day in Gaza, but also all around the world. The little girls that are being sold into slavery, and so many other horrible things that these scumbags are doing. Yeah. And so again...
Can I add one thing to that? Is it possible? I would just love to add education, because I think peace is one thing, tzedek, justice is another thing. But I've been a teacher for 25 years. I worry about America. We didn't mention America because we've lightly been tested with this kind of disgusting revolt by these people. But I think what's really important is they're watching, the younger generations are watching right now, and how we deal with it as a world, and how they're looking at the UN, and this lack of education, this lack of what we just talked about right now, even for the last 10 minutes. These are the things that basic education needs to be around the world, and we're not getting it out there.
Well, a basic education about loving your country, that would be nice for America and UK and other countries, because honestly, one thing that we can say with complete confidence is that our generation showed up and showed us that they were still in Hanukkah, are the modern Maccabees, and God bless them all. See you next week.